You know how scientists have failed with the experiments on sleep? Yes, this video is all about an experiment totally gone wrong. Think of the days where you were given a drug so that you can stay awake for 30 long days and someone monitors how you behave. An experiment was conducted in late 1940s by Russia. The purpose of the experiment was to find a drug by which humans can stay awake for multiple days without any problem. But how it went wrong? Let us see. Hello guys, I am your boy Navneet and you're watching Foxbit Tech. Russian researchers in the late 1940s kept 5 people awake for 15 days using an experimental gas-based stimulant. They were kept in sealed environment to carefully monitor the oxygen intake so that the gas didn't kill them, since it was toxic in high concentrations. This was before closed-circuit cameras, so they had only microphones and a 5-inch thick glass, porthole-sized windows into the chamber to monitor them. The chamber was stocked with books, cots to sleep on, but no bedding, running water and toilet, and enough dried food to last all 5 for over a month. The test subjects were political prisoners deemed enemies of the state during the World War II. Everything was fine for the first 5 days. The subjects hardly complained, having been promised that they would be freed if they submitted to the test and did not sleep for 30 days. The conversations and activities were monitored, and it was noted that they continued to talk about increasingly traumatic incidents in their past, and the general tone of the conversations took on a darker aspect after the 4-day mark. After 5 days, they started to complain about the circumstances and the events that led them to where they were and started to demonstrate severe paranoia. They stopped talking to each other and began alternately whispering to the microphones and the one-way mirrored portholes. Oddly, they all seemed to think that they could win the trust of the experimenters by turning over their comrades. At first, the researchers suspected that it was an effect of the gas itself. After 9 days, first of them started screaming. He ran the length of the chamber, repeatedly yelling at the top of his lungs for 3 hours straight. He continued attempting to scream but was only able to produce occasional squeaks. The researchers postulated that he had physically torn his vocal cords. The most surprising thing about his behavior is how other captives reacted to it, or rather, didn't react to it. They continued whispering to the microphone until the second started to scream. The 2 non-screaming captives took the books apart, smeared page after page with their own feces and pasted them calmly over the glass portholes. The screaming promptly stopped. So did the whispering to the microphones. After 3 more days passed, the researchers checked the microphones hourly to make sure they were working, since they thought it is impossible that no sound could be coming with 5 people inside. The oxygen consumption in the chamber indicated that all 5 must be alive. They used the intercom inside the chamber to hope to provoke any response from the captives. They were afraid, either dead or unconscious. They announced, "We are opening the chamber to touch the microphone. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor, or you will be shot. Compilants will earn one of you your immediate freedom." To their surprise, they heard a single phrase in a calm voice that they no longer want to be freed. Debate broke out between the researchers and the military forces funding the research. Unable to provoke any more response using the intercom, it was finally decided to open the chamber at midnight on the 15th day. The chamber was flushed of the stimulant gas and filled with fresh air, and immediate voices from the microphones began to object. 3 different voices began begging, as if pleading for the life of the loved ones, to turn the gas back on. The chamber was opened and soldiers sent in to retrieve the test subjects. They began to scream louder than ever. So did the soldiers when they saw what was inside. 4 of the 5 subjects were still alive, although no one could rightly call the state that any kind of life in them. The food rations of the past 5 days have not been so much as touched. They were chunks of meat from the dead subject's thighs and chest stuffed into the drain in the center of the chamber, blocking the drain and allowing 4 inches of water to accumulate on the floor. Precisely, much of the water on the floor was actually blood. All 4 surviving test subjects also had large portions of the muscle and skin torn away from their bodies. The destruction of flesh and exposed bone on the fingertips indicated that the wounds were self-inflicted. The abdominal organs below the ribcage of all 4 subjects have been removed, while the heart and lungs remained in place. The skin and most of the muscles attached to ribs have been ripped off, exposing the lungs through the ribcage. All blood vessels and organs remained intact, they just had been taken out and laid on the floor, but still they were alive. Most of the soldiers were Russian special operatives at the facility, but still many refused to return to the chamber to remove the test subjects. To everyone's surprise, the test subjects put up a fierce fight in the process of being removed from the chamber. One of the Russian soldiers died from having his throat ripped off. Another 5 soldiers lost their lives if you count ones that committed suicide in the weeks of the following incident. The medical researchers attempted to sedate him, but this proved impossible. He was injected with more than 10 times of the human dose of morphine derivative, and still he fought like an animal, breaking the ribs and arm of one doctor. The heart was seen beating. Even after it stopped, he continued to scream and failed for another 3 minutes, struggling to attack anyone in reach, and just repeated the word more over and over, weaker and weaker, until he finally fell silent. The second has died. The surviving 3 test subjects were heavily restrained and moved to a medical facility. The 2 with intact vocal cords continuously begged for the gas, demanding to be kept awake. The most injured of the 3 was taken to the only surgical operating room the facility had. In the process of preparing the subjects to have his organs placed back within his body, he fought furiously against the restraints when the anesthesia was brought to him to put him under. It took a little more anesthesia than normal to put him under. The instant his eyelids fluttered and closed, his heart stopped. He died. The second survivor had been the first of the group of 5 to start screaming. His vocal cords were destroyed. He was unable to beg or object to the surgery, and he only reacted by shaking his head violently in disapproval when the anesthesia was brought near him. One terrified nurse assisting the surgery stated that she had seen the patient's mouth curl into a smile several times whenever his eyes met hers. When the surgery ended, the subject looked at the surgeon and began to wheeze loudly, attempting to talk while struggling. Assuming this must be something of drastic importance, the surgeon had a pen and a pad fetched so that the patient could write his message. It was simple. He said, "Keep cutting." The other 2 test subjects were given the same surgery, both without anesthesia as well. The researchers tried asking why they had injured themselves, why they had ripped off their own guts, and why they wanted the given gas again. The only response was, "I must remain awake." All 3 subjects were placed back into the chamber, awaiting determination as to what should be done with them. The commanding officer, a former KGB agent, instead saw potential and wanted to see what would happen if they were put back on the gas. The researchers strongly objected, but were overruled. In the preparation of being sealed in the chamber again, the subjects were connected to an EEG monitor and had their restraints padded for a long-term confinement. To everyone's surprise, all 3 stopped struggling the moment it was let slip that they were going back on the gas. It was obvious that at this point, all 3 were putting up a great struggle to stay awake. One of the subjects could speak, was humming loudly and continuously. It looked as if they were repeatedly suffering from brain death before returning to normal. As they focused on the paper scrolling out of the brainwave monitor, the brainwaves immediately changed to that of a deep sleep, then flatlined for the last time, as his heart simultaneously stopped. The only remaining subject that could speak started screaming to be sealed in now. The brainwaves showed the same flat lines as one who just died from falling asleep. The commander gave an order to seal the chamber with both inside as well as 3 researchers. One of the named 3 researchers immediately drew his gun and shot the commander point blank between the eyes. Then he turned the gun onto the mute subject and blew his brains out. He pointed his gun at the remaining subject. "I won't be locked in here with these things. Not with you," he screamed at the man strapped to the table. "What are you?" he demanded. The subject smiled. "Have you forgotten so easily?" the subject asked. "We are you. We are the madness that lies within you all, begging to be free at every moment in the deepest animal mind. We are what you hide in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal heaven." The researcher paused, then aimed at the subject's heart and fired. The EGG flattened as the subject weakly choked out, "So nearly free." So this is the entire story of the Russian sleep experiment. Don't forget to leave a like. What do you feel about the video? Feel free to comment below. For more stuff, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get notified. See you in my next video. Bye bye.